mulled wine.
Neil Hawker, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you, Greg.
I'm just wondering what kind of music got you through your teens?
Through my teens, okay, well this is my dirty little secret. Like any kid of the late 80s and the early 90s, very, very heavy metal. But I think the thing that I got from that was there were some great players in that era too. And then after a few years of listening to heavy metal, of course it morphs into blues because there's guitars and all of that as well. So ended up bridging the gap between heavy metal via Gary Moore and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then eventually I saw the light with Robin Ford and Eric Clapton and players like that.
When did you first pick up the guitar?
I think I was about 15 at the time. Yeah. No, I think I was younger than that. I was in year 8 at the time, but I was only really just dragging home Yamaha C40 from school for a couple of years first before I got a real instrument.
So you've been playing around the Melbourne scene for about 15 years. Why has it taken to this point to release your debut album?
Procrastination, I think, maybe. When I first moved to Melbourne, I was playing every gig I can get, which is what you should do when you move to a place like that. And then it became apparent that I wanted to do only certain things. And there was a few years there I didn't play much at all. I was just busy having a good time, going out on weekends and not being in a band, being on the other side of the stage. And then a few years ago I was playing with Andrea Marr doing the blues thing, and I thought, you know what, the blues thing is something that I really, really like to do. And up until that point as well, and in the last few years I've been playing a lot of soul, funk and sort of jazz funk gigs as well. And that all just culminated to a point where I was like, okay, I really love the blues, but in order to continue to play it, I want to play my own repertoire as well. So probably about 5 years ago, I ended up starting to write, and I was so busy at the time playing for other people, I spent about 5 minutes a week on it. That's why it's taken so long as well. So I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to have to dedicate myself to myself in the last year. I've got to put my money where my mouth is and actually put this record out instead of talking about it. Yeah.
The album's called South by East. It's one of the tracks on the album. Yeah. Why is that the title track?
It's a subtle reference and dedication to Melbourne, just being in the southeast of the country. And I think my journey to get to Melbourne after growing up in Wollongong was all via the eastern seaboard. I lived in Goulburn for a couple of years. That was for music study, and then Lismore in New South Wales for music study. So it's all been on the east coast, and ended up in the south. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
While the downtown beggars scrimping for coin for an ice cafe, and it's raining down in Bleak City. No one cares in the least. I'm coming home. South by East. South by East.
The album is a kind of blues that you don't really hear a lot of in Australia. A lot of horns. Why did you go down that road?
It's probably related to the same reason why I decided to play my own blues project instead of playing for other people doing it as well, because I wasn't really scratching the itch. Playing for other people, I loved it, but the repertoire for a start, I really love Albert Collins' bands of the late 80s and early 90s where he had horns. The White Trash horn section. B.B. King's bands had great horns. Just any horn-driven blues band I really loved as well, because the guitar wasn't really the boss of it. But when the guitar came in, it was appreciated as well. So I really dig that kind of thing. And I had a bit of a jazz background. I've done Hammond combo stuff before too, where the Hammond is actually the boss of the band as far as harmony is concerned. And so after a while I started to pick up a few things about writing chord changes and arranging. I thought, well, I want to bring that to the blues as well.
You've got Mitch Cairns producing. How did that come about?
I worked at Allen's Music on Burke Street in Melbourne years ago. I was there for about 6.5 years, including a bit of a stint in the office doing marketing as well. But when I worked at the shop, that was where I first met Mitch. I think I sold him strings or something like that, and he had a gig around the corner that night playing some R&B gig, and turned out we're both New South Wales, we like the same music, and sort of got on. But I didn't see him for years after that. So when I decided to do this, I thought, well, if he remembers who I am, I'll get back in touch and see if he's interested in doing the gig. And he was, and from listening to the work that he did with Russell Morris and sort of the more blues orientated stuff, it seemed like the right production style as well. So yeah.
Yeah, there's some great horn sounds on the album. Who did the arrangements?
Me. I wrote all the parts, arranged it, harmonised it, all that kind of stuff. The only thing that I had a weakness with is I'm very old school with charting. I use a pencil and a paper, and to get it into Sibelius might have taken another 5 years. So I gave Jeremy Diffie a call, who's a great arranger. He actually makes makes a bit of a living out of doing arrangements online for filmmakers and stuff in the States. So he had it done in a couple of days, which was really good, so people can actually read my handwriting. So yeah, but all the horns, I took my ideas from the Albert Collins style band or the BB King stuff. I actually there's an Albert Collins album called Icebreakers Live 91-92, which I really love, and it's a bit of a yardstick record for me. And there's a slow blues on there, and there's a sax solo done by a guy called John Smith, and it's one of the best blues sax solos I've ever heard. And I stalked him and I found him on the internet, and I sent him an email saying, look, I'm a beginner with this horn arranging stuff. Is there any tips you can give me? If you've got any, maybe some PDFs of the charts you used to use with Albert Collins? And he returned my email, and he said, oh man, we just memorized all that stuff, you know. So I think that was more of a case of those guys not so much arranging and reading the music, but maybe spending 4 or 5 nights a week playing those songs for years and years and years. So I realised I was on the right track when when he told me that. Yeah.
While there's a big blues element to the album, there's also a jazz or jazz rock element as well. Yeah. Even I can hear a bit of Steely Dan in there. Where does that come from? Who are the guitar influences?
Well, all the guitar players who play for Steely Dan, of course, I love them. And Larry Carlton's a big hero of mine. John Harrington, who's the current guy, and whoever else has played with Steely Dan. But for arrangement and harmony and stuff like that, definitely Steely Dan. But also Robin Ford, not just as a guitar player, but the way he writes as well. Kev Moe as well. I consider a fairly down-home blues musician, but he also writes with sophistication as well. So anyone who maybe plays beyond the 1-4-5 is something that I really love.
Let's talk about the guitars that you used on the album.
Okay, this is a 2006 Gibson Es-335. I'd always wanted a 335 since I heard Larry Carlton and BB King and all these guys, you know, playing the semi-hollow instrument. Couldn't afford one, so in the first week I got my job at Allen's, I put an order in at Staffy's and got hold of this one. I just ordered it in and I just took a punt, and it turned out really great out of the box. It's made in Memphis, nice flame top, very subtle flame. I'm not, you know, that kind of thing. It sounds great, and I played it a lot of different types of styles as well. It's been really good for playing soul music over the last few years too. So play that one. This is another 2006. This is I bought this second hand from the Guitar Colonel about 3 months ago, and it's probably one of the best investments I've made. Always wanted a Les Paul, and what I like about them is they're just a simple slab of mahogany. It's no nonsense guitar. It's been well loved, and I found out by who afterwards. I got a call from the shop after I bought it and said, John Dallin was really glad that you bought the guitar, and that it hasn't gone to someone who's going to play terrible punk music on it. And I said, well, you know, okay, fair enough. So it's been great, and I'll probably actually be playing this one a lot more often too, because I can turn it up a bit as well. So I can give it a good bash, and it's just no nonsense, and it looks really nice. And lastly, this Stratocaster was just on a couple of tracks on the record. When I was a student up in Lismore, New South Wales, of course I was a student, so I couldn't afford to just buy a Stratocaster outright. And a local luthier there called Jim Mills suggested that I just start putting my gig money down to him, and every time I do that, he builds a bit more of the guitar. So this took about a year to get as well. So he let me borrow one of his Strats while I was doing it, which is really cool. I got it custom made. It's an alder body, like many Strats are. I originally had it with some prototype Chris Kidman pickups in there too, which were awesome, and they're a little bit quieter than these, but after a while I just wanted it to sound like a regular Strat. So these are Fat 50s, like the standards I've had, the Fender standards for the last few years. I got the lovely bird's eye maple there, Brazilian rosewood fingerboard, and a push-pull, which is really cool. So when I put it into neck position, it activates the bridge as well, so you get the middle Telecaster sound out of it as well. So that's from Jim Mills, but I think he sticks to mostly making acoustics these days, so I got in at a lucky time while he's making those. Yeah.
And what about the amplifiers that you played through for the album?
Yeah, I did the whole album on a Super Saturn reverb, just a non-master volume amp. Had it pretty cranked in the room, and just used the volume on the 335 to clean it up a little bit, or added a tube screamer for the big moments as well. I considered using some of the collection that Mitch had in the studio, but we were having so much fun with this Supro we didn't want to touch anything, so did the whole album on that. Yeah.
Did you have much in your pedal board in the studio?
I had a MXR slapback, just I can't remember, a carbon copy delay, that's what you call it, and I just had it set on the slapback setting, like the Robin Ford rhythm sound, and I think it was an MXR GTOD as well, or as a tube screamer, I can't remember. It was 2 pedals, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So with the album out, what's the plan for the rest of the year and into 2018?
So I've got the album launch on November 9th at the Spotted Mallard in Brunswick, and I've got the full 10-piece band playing for that, and I'm supported by the Nathan Beretta band. He is the guitar player from Blue Eyes Cry. So, and I've got Isiula Hingano on backing vocals from Blue Eyes Cry in my band, so I'm kind of stealing them for the night as well. The rest of the year is just to get out there and play as much as possible. That's the main thing. Yeah, all the social media in the world can't make up for the fact that you just got to get out and play.
Neil Hawker, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Greg.